You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? This is KCSN Update, your daily Chiefs video from us here at KC Sports Network. I'm former Chiefs insider BJ Kissel, and it's Tuesday, which means we're going to be joined by my guy, Nate Taylor from The Athletic, and he joins us every Tuesday for our 5 burning questions. Now, the Chiefs are 2-0. The Chargers and Broncos are both 1-1, and the Raiders are pulling up the rear in the AFC West at 0-2 after that pick 6 in overtime against the Arizona Cardinals last Sunday. Now, the big news this week is Chiefs linebacker Willie Gay Jr. being suspended by the NFL for 4 games. And we'll obviously chat about that and what it means moving forward for the Chiefs here with Nate Taylor in just a few minutes. But right now, do a quick word from our partner here, DraftKings. The NFL action is in full swing here at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're talking touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If that's not enough, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Right now, for every leg you add, you can boost your winnings up to 100%. With payouts bigger than ever, why bet on football anywhere else? To make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped-up same-game parlays once per game day, all season long. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code KCSN to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code KCSN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, we're back with Nate Taylor from The Athletic. Nate, I'm not sure if you heard about this or not, but apparently one of the Chiefs starting linebackers was suspended by the NFL over the last 24 to 48 hours, depending upon when you're listening to this podcast. Can you give us the latest on Willie Gay Jr. and the 4-game suspension by the NFL?
Oh, I'm aware, BJ. This is basically Roger Goodell's decision on his interpretation of the league's personal conduct policy. I know, Chiefs fans were quickly asking me on Monday when this news was announced by the league if Willie Gay was going to appeal it, and the decision has been made that he will not appeal it. So his first game back will be right before the Chiefs bye week against the San Francisco 49ers in week 7. But unfortunately, with his suspension, Willie Gay, who's probably their most athletic defender, will miss the game, probably miss the biggest game of the season, right? Against the Buffalo Bills in week 6. That'll be the end of his suspension. All of this stems from an altercation he had in January with the mother of his newborn child at the time. She felt threatened. She alleges through the Overland Park police that Willie Gay pushed her, and he refused to leave her home. Now, once the police arrived, Willie Gay was not there based on the police report. So when the NFL feels like a player has done any harm to a woman, whether it's physical, verbal, obviously we understand the sexual misconduct that Deshaun Watson has done, or that the NFL basically, said that he committed, even though he was never convicted of anything from a legal standpoint, that they're going to try to take as hard of a stance as they can. I know some Chiefs fans are somewhat puzzled by how the decision was made for 4 games in this case involving one woman, which, it's basically your opinion as to where that meets comparable to the Deshaun Watson situation, where the league wanted a full year. Roger Goodell basically appointed someone in the league that essentially said that based on the independent arbiter, they're going to hedge it basically and go down the middle. And so Deshaun will miss the first 11 games of the season. But anytime the NFL deems that you've done some form of violence to a woman or women, multiple women, they're going to just see that as a violation of the policy. So the timing of it is interesting, BJ, because the NFL told me that this case from their standpoint involving Willie was pretty much resolved in July. So I don't know if the suspension came out because Willie or the Chiefs didn't want to, maybe they considered appealing and then eventually didn't.
Yeah.
And that's why the ruling came out came out Monday for people that are watching or listening. But the timing is a bit odd just because unlike the Deshaun Watson situation, he was suspended before the season started. Willie Gay was allowed to play 2 games, and now he'll miss the next 4.
Yeah, getting into a discourse about whether or not it should have been more or less is not anything that I'm ever going to be interested in getting, because we weren't there. We don't know exactly what happened. Whatever it was, it was unfortunate. Willie Gay is taking responsibility by not appealing. Now, that doesn't mean that it could mean a lot of different things for not appealing. It could mean they just don't want to drag this out and have more people keep it in the news cycle more and more people are talking about it if they don't think there's a high probability of him coming back, weighing that against the PR hit that it takes by continuously talking about a player that was in an unfortunate situation that you hope is resolved, and you don't like to hear about these things. But comparing that to the Deshaun Watson, either way, there were things that were done that shouldn't have been done. And then trying to make excuses and compare that to other things is just not any kind of conversation that we're going to have here. But I appreciate you updating everybody on the latest of what's going on with Willie Gay. Now, let's talk about a little bit about what happens on the field now over the next 4 weeks without Willie Gay Jr. You've got Darius Harris, you've got Leo Chanel, you've got Elijah Lee. They brought up, I believe, Jack Cochran from the practice squad. How do you see this kind of playing out for our second question here on our 5 burning questions? Just how do you kind of see this playing out over the next 4 weeks with, who's going to get the majority of those snaps? Are they going to break it up? Obviously putting you on the spot here a little bit without, they're not going to give you the inside information on exactly what's going to happen. So this is 100%. Hey, if you got that lifeline, you want to break that news, please. But I know the organization well enough. I don't think they're going to give you the playbook, but how do you see this playing out in your opinion of what the Chiefs are going to do defensively without Willie Gay over the next 4 weeks?
Yeah, this is my best estimation, my best guess. So you are correct. And, on tomorrow, on Wednesday, we'll ask Coach Reed what the thought process is. We do see the early portion of practice, so you kind of get an idea which groups of guys are working together that may be translatable to the field based on whatever the matchup is or the opponent is that week. My best guess is that you're probably going to see Darius Harris the most in the Willie Gay, after Willie Gay sort of version of this defense. I think there could be a chance for Steve Spagnuolo to really use Brian Cook now, the third safety, the rookie from Cincinnati. You could get to a place where maybe you're in more dime packages and you just hope Brian Cook is a effective tackler in the open field.
Yep.
The interesting thing about this game against the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday is Jonathan Taylor. You probably need about 2 to 3 guys to bring him down consistently to not let him, sort of break the game open with a long run. Obviously, he's super effective in the red zone, although the Colts did not score any points against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Nick Bolton will play a lot of Mike and or Sam, or excuse me, Mike and or Will. I think Leo Chanel will still play the Sam linebacker role. I don't think you need to make things more complicated for the rookie, as he's obviously getting, more snaps as the season goes along. But Darius Harris is the backup Mike. So there's a version of this where he plays the Mike position, even though without Willie, you're going to have Nick call the plays from the Will spot, play the Will spot on certain passing downs because he's probably their best coverage and just open field tackler among this group. And then Elijah Lee is someone that I'll be interested in too because, maybe he's someone you use on nickel if you want to keep things simple with Harris on base personnel. I'm interested to see what you guys think as I watch more videos and try to get an insight, because it's so hard when they've only played 2 linebackers basically the whole season. It's been fascinating, but this is where I would suggest if I was in the coaches meeting is to say, hey, let's make sure Nick Bolton's on the field at all times.
Right.
And if you're a Chiefs fan, hope that he stays healthy. And then secondly, Darius Harris has been in the system the longest, and he should be capable of being a spot starter, and you don't have a ton of drop off. Of course, you're not going to replace that athleticism. Of course, you're not going to replace possibly some interceptions or some tackles for loss, but don't give up the big gains and then use, Elijah Lee and Leo Chenal in spot situations, given whatever the Indianapolis Colts presents from maybe, multiple tight end sets.
Yeah, Nate, I think you bring up a great point that it's not necessarily – it doesn't have to be replacing player for player and trying to replicate his skill set, where you can mix in different defensive coverages, different personnel groupings to try and achieve your goal of slowing down an opposing offense. And I like the idea of Darius Harris being that guy. He is probably the closest to being the most athletic. Darius Harris can run, and you get up on that turf in Indy. Jonathan Taylor is an absolute stud, but you get somebody that can meet him at the edge, who can beat a block in the backfield. I think Darius Harris is the best case of all those guys that you just mentioned. So that'll definitely be something to watch about. And Brian Cook, going big nickel or, going with some bigger bodies in there. That's a really good point too. And it's not like Steve Spagnuolo, if this was resolved back in July, it's not like they haven't had time to plan what they wanted to do schematically for a chunk of the season, knowing that Willie Gay was going to miss some time. And so this is not necessarily scrambling to figure out what they're going to do. The Chiefs organization, normally the NFL does a pretty good job of communicating ahead of time, or at least giving heads up that they know that something is going to be coming, even if they don't know exactly when. And so hey, let's move on to the third one. And this is the DraftKings line. I believe it's moved quite a bit when you talk with people for this game on Sunday. I don't know if it was injuries. I don't know if it's going to change now with the Willie Gay Jr. news.
Right.
Chiefs, somebody had mentioned that the line started at 3.5 points that the Chiefs are favored by, and now it's all the way up to 7. So the line right now is 7 points, which a little surprising going on the road. I know the Colts have not played well. They have had a lot of injuries. They've missed a lot of guys. They've played 2 teams that aren't great. But based on what we saw from them last Sunday, that line makes sense. But just in general, you put a line like that against, Frank Reich is a good head coach. So it kind of surprised me when you hear the line of Chiefs are favored by 7 points going on the road against the Colts. What was your reaction?
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised too, because if the Colts can't perform better under desperate circumstances, then they are not the team I thought they were going to be when the season began. They're 0-2. This will be their home opener. They were just kind of lifeless in Sunday's game against the Jacksonville Jaguars for long stretches. They clearly didn't score. They lost 24-0. I know that Campbell didn't play. Alec Pierce, the rookie wide receiver, he didn't play. Those go to the injuries that you mentioned, BJ. But is this line indicative mostly of Andy Reid with 10 days to prepare, Patrick Mahomes against a defense that, can be vulnerable at times? Yeah, it's not, the Chargers. Look, I love DeForest Buckner, but Shaquille Leonard is not playing, and that's unfortunate. I think the Colts have 4 star players. It's Leonard, it's Quentin Nelson, it's DeForest Buckner, and it's Jonathan Taylor. Yep. Problem is, only 2 of those guys really play positions where you can wreck a game.
Yeah, not a great look.
It's not a quarterback. It's not a receiver. It's an offensive guard, which is great, but you need all 5 men to work together, and that, as Andy Reid describes it, that beautiful dance. When you're trying to protect the passer. But the Colts have to pretty much do anything they can to stay in this game to see if they can try to steal it late. But I think this line reflects that. Look, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid on a 10-day break. The Chiefs will be, a little bit more rested. I thought some of their issues against the Chargers were A, Chargers related, and B, trying to play 2 football games in 5 days is just not it's just not great. And obviously that led to really probably one of the deciding plays of the game is Everett being so gassed that he can't run a route, and then Jalen Watson gets the pick 6. So
shout out Barry Rubin.
Yeah, exactly. So, strength and conditioning coach, this really might just say that, maybe Matt Ryan is closer to the twilight than we realize.
Yeah.
And even if these wide receivers play, are they going to be 100% healthy? And so a lot of the burden will be on Jonathan Taylor. And, we've seen it from time to time. A running back can only do so much. And we all assume the Chiefs, who are second in the league right now in points scored, will be in the high 20s, will be in the low 30s. So the more you think about it, it makes sense. But for a team that we thought was a contender when the season began, a team I thought that was going to win the division, not a great division in the AFC South, but still win the division, to be 0-2 and be giving 7 points at home, that is shocking. But that tells you how poorly Matt Ryan has played this season.
That's probably the biggest surprise to me when looking at the Colts is I thought they finally had a veteran quarterback who could kind of stabilize things for them because their defense had been so good that it had been kind of wasted by some really, really bad quarterback play. And you get a veteran in there with a running game with Quentin Nelson that kind of solidify everything, and it just has not worked out. And this could very much be a second half of the season team once Matt Ryan, who had been in the same system forever, down in Atlanta, gets used to the personnel. I can see them getting significantly better. But after this game, Nate, and this is my fourth burning question for you, is just how much do you think we're going to learn about the Chiefs in this game against the Colts? Because from step back, from the outsider's perspective, absolutely look amazing against the Cardinals, come out and struggle against the Chargers, which you just brought up the point of probably has more to do with the Chargers being pretty good. The other guys are on scholarship too.
Yes.
But how much do you think we're going to learn about the Chiefs? Because to that point, never underestimate an embarrassed professional athlete. Maybe one of the best lines or signs that I'd ever heard, because you don't see teams routinely get their tails kicked in week after week after week. Now, this is a Colts offense, very prideful group because they're professional athletes that did not score. How many times do teams get blanked in the NFL at this point? So they're going to be fired up. They do not want to start 0-3, and they don't want to obviously struggle in front of their home crowd in their first home opener. But, how much are we going to learn about the Chiefs in this game on Sunday against the Colts?
Well, I think you're going to learn even more about the depth of the defense, right? I mean, you don't have Trent McDuffie in Thursday's game. Jalen Watson steps up, makes the play of the game. Obviously they're not going to have Willie Gay. What does that do from the linebacking, depth so far? Matt Ryan is the opposite in terms of mobility when compared to, Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray. So I think this is an interesting test for the Chiefs pass rush. Hey, Matt Ryan is going to get to his landmarks. He's not going to move a ton after that. Or if you can get him off his spot, maybe this pass rush can get 3 or 4 sacks in the game, especially if they get, if the Chiefs get a lead early on, make the Colts one-dimensional. Maybe George Karlaftis and Frank Clark can do something on the edge, and obviously Chris Jones, there'll be, I'm sure, some extra motivation to say, like, hey, some people consider DeForest Buckner the best defensive tackle in the AFC. Some people consider you the best, defensive tackle in the AFC. Let's see who wins.
You should ask him that this week, Nate. Just like that.
Don't think I'm not. Don't think I'm not. And don't think I'm not ready for his smile. His like his
come
quiet,
on.
like, come on, Nate. What are you doing?
I guess we're gonna find out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, hey, it's like you, DeForest Buckner, and Jeffrey Simmons. Just so happens you guys play the Colts and the Titans this year. I'm just, just saying. So, I think we're going to learn a lot about the defense. In terms of the offense, I think short week, and I need to see better improvement. I'm going to write about this in The Athletic, but you're going to need to see better improvement, or actually just better production in short yardage situations. It's one of the more puzzling parts of the season. Because like you mentioned in the first game, BJ, they were a juggernaut. They were like, we don't care if it's 4th and 2 near the goal line. Like, we have the perfect play call. Obviously the running backs as a group did well. And, there was some real up and down play from the running back position against the Chargers. Obviously Clyde saved his best for last in that 52-yard run to really seal the game. But for Andy Reid, it's like, Coach, I understand. As I ask this question, I'm going to ask this question on Wednesday, y'all. I understand that y'all are never, ever, 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 ever going to run a quarterback sneak. But Coach, no one's gotten hurt since that happened. I watched Red Zone on Sunday, Coach. Everybody ran a quarterback sneak. And guess what? The quarterbacks largely stayed healthy. You know, Tom Brady's done it for 20 years. And at some point, you got to keep it simple, right, Coach? But he probably not going to do it. But that is part of the problem with short yardage situations. When the defense knows one option is already off the board because they never run it because he got hurt the last time, then you have more. You just have less tendencies to go off on, and the defense can understand that, which is a credit to the Chargers because they knew when the shovel pass was coming. They probably knew when the fullback. Dive was coming.
That never doesn't work. That rarely never work. Never not work. No.
Blake Bell is not here to take these sneaks, Coach.
I can't tell how many times it's been like 4th and 1. I'm like, here comes that fullback play. I don't know what it's called. Like he opens up. I know it's the way that he turns that it always screws up the linebackers. It's the reason that they do that. Going back to like high school football days and their cues, but it always works. And there's the reverse pitch out of it. You know, the reverse pitch is coming at some point. They're going to get stopped.
Well, let's see it on Sunday, Coach.
They're going to reverse pitch out of it. And I'll come back and be like, that was what I was talking about. If you're wondering what play I'm talking about, go back to 2014, the game against the Buffalo Bills, 4th and 1. They did the reverse pitch and they pitched out to Jamal Charles. And I think he ran for a touchdown. Like that's the same exact play. And then that's the counter off of it, which I think I've only seen the one time where they've actually ended up pitching the outside because 98% of the time they run that little fullback dive on 4th and 1 and it works, or 3rd and 1.
You could just pitch that ball to Isaiah Pacheco and see if that 4.3 speed is
that might give it away though, Nate. That might give it away. You put Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield on 4th and 1. I think they're gonna be like, hey, look for something outside here.
Sometimes it's just about the Joes, man. Sometimes the Joes are better than the Jimmies. Just
tell them to like cover up his number and maybe they won't notice who's back there.
The best part was a rookie after the play just ribbing the hell out of a third-year player, being like, dude, you were carrying that like it was gold, which, I get it. But like even Isaiah Pacheco's like, you don't got to do that. But, Clyde learns this lesson from the Baltimore loss, and he's never going to do that when he's in the open field on a 4-minute offense.
I'd really like Isaiah to say that to Clyde in front of Eric Bieniemy and just see the interaction. I would love to hear the interaction in that game situation for Isaiah to be like, you don't got to run like that. And Bieniemy just stares at him.
Just like,
doesn't have to say a word. But yeah, I still think the biggest play for Clyde for me was running over Derwin James. Like I could watch that all day long, the little Texas route that we've been expecting from Clyde Edwards-Helaire since he got drafted. A lot more of the screen game. And he's on pace for just over like 1,600 yards from scrimmage. I know the 52-yard run had a big part to do with that, but that goes for most, boom or bust. We saw it with Jamal Charles for his entire career. There's a lot of short run, and then he'd bust one. And then he'd have the, highest yards per carry average.
The average
NFL history. All right. 5th question. This goes back to the offense. We talked a little bit about it, but just directly, we saw the offense struggle against the Chargers. In your opinion, is that more about the Chiefs not being who we thought they were after the Arizona game? Not saying that they're not still one of the best offenses in the NFL, in case anybody's blood pressure just went to like 100 based on what I said. But do you think their struggles were more about the Chargers being really good, or the Chiefs struggling a little bit and not being exactly what we thought they could be this year?
Yeah, I think it's more about the Chargers. They are the best threat. Through 2 weeks, guys, we've seen it now. Denver is off to a puzzling slow start. But hey, it's the first time head coach.
Cooked.
I'm kind of stunned the Las Vegas Raiders are 0-2, but hey, they did what the Chiefs, they couldn't do what the Chiefs did, which is just contain Kyle. Stop. You let Kyler Murray run around, you're asking to get beat. And so they let the game get very chaotic. And they got caught, and it's unfortunate, but they're 0-2 when I think they have, a legitimate argument to be at least 1-1, maybe 2-0 if they played a little bit better at the end of their season opener against the Chargers. To your point, BJ, there's not many teams in the NFL who say our 2 best pass rushers are Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, fully healthy, fully ready to go, and can overwhelm about half of your playbook. It's hilarious that when you rewatch the game, Juju Smith-Schuster is a big receiver, and now he's being asked to chip Joey Bosa before running a flat route or sort of an outlet for Mahomes in case the heat still gets there. And then the reason why the Chargers have been designed, and I understand why people pick them to win the division, is it's not just about, the spectacular plays that Justin Herbert can make even with a fractured rib. It's Derwin James, Asante Samuel Jr., who we're going to talk about here in a little bit, and J.C. Jackson. Like, that is arguably the best secondary in the AFC, right? Until Tre'Davious White comes back from the Buffalo Bills and is the player he's been. Yeah. I think it's the Chargers who have perhaps maybe the most dynamic secondary. Now, the Chiefs secondary was obviously up to the task themselves in Thursday night's game, and a huge reason why they won. But I think the combination of having two elite pass rushers and multiple players who can be versatile, dynamic, and just cover, receivers at a high level is the reason why the Chiefs offense sort of struggled. I don't know if the Colts can replicate that. No. And I think – thank you. I agree. I agree. No. You always got to throw it out there because you never know. Again, these are professionals, as you mentioned, playing with pride because they were flat out embarrassed in Jacksonville. Yeah. At the same time, it's a short week against a divisional opponent in the first matchup. And I know some fans were like, I don't love these play calls in the first half. You got to think long term. And I'm pretty sure Andy Reid didn't want to show everything in this matchup because he expects the rematch in LA to be that much harder, which means you're going to have to get to maybe your more sophisticated, creative stuff. And you just got to see what it's like with your offensive line, your tackles, Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley up against Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And hey, sometimes the other team wins. Like, I thought Mahomes was excellent and only being sacked once. But a lot of this is the Chargers have one of the best defenses. And because it's only 2 weeks, we're going to see over the next month and a half, hey, they might be 6-2, 7-2, because that defense is better equipped to support Justin Herbert so that Justin Herbert doesn't have to do everything in the second half to keep the Chargers in it or to help them win these sort of comeback games. Give credit to the Chargers. It's okay, Chiefs fans. You can acknowledge the Chargers have a really good defense, one of the best in the AFC. And I think with 10 days rest, an appropriate game plan, an appropriate schedule, knowing who you're playing, at a more, probably at a better detail in terms of the simple things you want to do from the game plan, I assume the Chiefs will perform a lot better on offense, or at least be consistent to start, instead of having to sort of rally like they did against the Chargers coming back from a 10-point deficit.
Yeah, not a lot of teams out there going to be able to replicate having two ball hawks. And I know J.C. Jackson's not playing at 100%. And I put it out on Twitter because I was feeling feisty that the Chargers offseason was paying J.C. Jackson 5 years, $70 or $82 million. And the Chiefs was Jalen Watson in the 7th round. And we saw how that turned out, with a picture of Justin Watson catching a touchdown and a picture of Jalen Watson scoring a touchdown. Worked out nicely for them in that one. And that's what's beautiful. You'd be upset, and we not who they thought they were. That game was boring. It wasn't close. It wasn't fun to watch. But the next day, I had a lot of joy that came out of that game because the Chiefs cannot play well. The Chargers can do everything, including putting their quarterback out of a situation I don't think he should have been on the field. I could be wrong about that. I've said that consistently, that it was really hard to watch a player who couldn't protect himself go out down 10 in a situation where the probability of them coming back is really low.
With a banged up offensive line, because they were without their starting center and their starting right tackle.
Yeah, I know he endeared himself, and the toughness will never be a narrative that's brought up again because he showed the entire football watching world that Justin Herbert's a tough SOB, and really showed that he can go out there and play. I just still don't think it was a great idea, but that pass that he made across the middle made one of the best passes of the entire season. When you see the end zone angle, and he really didn't have a window at all. He just somehow got it in there. But the fact that the Chiefs can go out there and not play particularly great, and still come away with a win in that scenario was big time for them, and probably tough to swallow for Brennan Staley, who gotten so much crap for being too aggressive. Then he goes uber conservative, and neither one of those plans really work out for him. So Nate Taylor,
you need points, coach. You need points. Like whatever will help you get points against the Chiefs. That's what you need. That's what you need to do. So he'll adjust some things, but all this sets up the rematch. I'm so interested to see how it looks in November between both these teams, who, again, will have a full week to prepare. We'll have more game tape to sort of dive through. And to just add to your point, BJ, Justin Watson, depending on who you ask, is either the fourth or the fifth receiver who absolutely cooked the Chargers' best cornerback. So, you know, sometimes depth on an NFL team really, really matters. It's one of the reasons you get to the Super Bowl, and it's one of the reasons you're a perennial championship contender.
Brett Veach probably feeling pretty good about the work that he and his staff did after that one. So Nate Taylor from The Athletic, man, appreciate you for joining us on this episode of KCSN Update presented by our friends at DraftKings. Chiefs Kingdom, we know there's a lot of great places to get your Chiefs content throughout the week, and we appreciate KC Sports Network being one of them, and we appreciate Nate Taylor for joining us. Make sure to catch all of his great work at The Athletic and follow him by Nate Taylor on social media. He'll have all the latest on what's going to go down with Chris Jones this week, is he's going to ask him about going up against who some say is a better defensive tackle in the AFC. If he gets upset about that, Nate, just throw this out. Just bring up Robert Nkemdiche, because growing up, that was kind of the guy that was always ranked ahead of Chris. So he always had his eye on him. I learned that going down and visiting Chris and his family down in Houston, Mississippi. I'll never forget that one. So if you get yourself in a tough spot and he starts to just bring up where's Nkemdiche now? And then he'll smile and be like, I don't know. So anyway, buddy.
You won, Chris. You won.
He's got to find the next one. He's got to find the next. Just say some think Aaron Donald's better. And he's like, well, it's Aaron Donald.
Yeah, I don't ever mention his name to Chris Jones, because it's just like, hey man, you know, one guy's just this versus, like, he's this generation's Reggie White, man. Like, we can't like, it's like he's not.
He's the best defensive player in NFL history.
It's crazy. Well, he's in the argument, man. I mean, Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, Aaron Donald. Me personally, I love Ed Reed. Yeah. But like, yeah, there's only so many names you can list off without being like, yeah, that guy, you know, Dick Butkus. I take Aaron Donald.
Yeah, he's in the comments. I take the guy right across the center who just wrecks everything.
Yeah. It's like, you know, Dick Butkus like really revolutionized the linebacker position, and the violence and the toughness, and, you know, intimidating. And it's like, and Aaron Donald is
perfect right now.
Yeah, but oh man,
he couldn't.
What a reference!
Those guys could not play in this era. You kidding?
Of course not. But just to say that, like, you would watch the old clips of Dick Butkus and you'd be like, that's really, really impressive against other grown men of his era. That is,
that's true.
Not even close to the comical levels of destruction on any third down when you don't double team this man named Aaron Donald. So that's the beauty of the sport.
You watch those old Steeler highlights and you're just like, how are these guys not arrested as soon as this game was over? Like, that is assault. They're clotheslining people. It's like the longest yard. It's like just taking everybody out. Yeah. So, all right, man. Appreciate you as always, everybody. Appreciate you for tuning into this episode, and we will see you all later. We got plenty of good content coming up this week as the Chiefs get ready for the Colts on Sunday. We'll have you covered at KC Sports Network, and Nate will have you covered at The Athletic. See y'all next time.